In my last video, I picked out my top 10 worst games that I reviewed this year. Now it's time to do the best. This one was much harder to pick. Now to make things a little bit harder on myself, I've decided to allow only one per franchise. Just to remind you, this year I have only reviewed Wii U and eShop games. So if you're wondering why only those games are on this list, that's why. Also, if your favorite isn't on this list, it's very possible I've just never reviewed it. So don't freak out. Just to say this again, this is the list of my games that I enjoyed this year. So with that said, number 10. Sonic All-Star Racing Transformed. This was a tough call. Honestly, it could have been either one of the Sonic games. It was between this one or Sonic Lost World. Either one could have gone in this spot. They're both good Sonic games. Well, there's a sentence you probably haven't heard in a while. In the end, I decided to go Sonic's All-Star Racing Transformed for its ability to change vehicles in mid-level and have the levels changing themselves depending on which lap you were on. I thought that was a really fun way to tweak the kart racing genre. Now, I know it's been done in other games, but I think they did such a good job on this one. The gimmick this time around is that the cars, in addition to being a car, can turn into a boat and a plane. However, the one drawback I found was that I really was annoying my kids every time I went to transform, because I would make the sound. I couldn't stop. It was just perfect for the situation. They should just be glad I didn't start singing, "You got the touch, bum bum, you got the power." These sections were fun to play, and they controlled just fine. Number 9. Wii Party U! This title had some really fun mini-games. They really used the gamepad to its fullest. And while the board games weren't that great, the other modes had plenty of things that would make a party a lot of fun. The board games themselves were weird. I mean, there was this one where you're crossing a bridge that is like the worst bridge ever imagined. It's just something you expect the government to build. I mean, I would have loved to see that council meeting. He's like, "I'd like to build a bridge that goes to jaggy ways so we can just make it as hard as possible for people to get off it." That's safe, right?
It's not a bridge. It's like a raceway for people instead of cars.
If I ever had to walk that thing, I'd be like, "My God, this is taking forever."
That's till it's harder for the runners.
The money they must have sunk into this project would have been ridiculous. Number 8. Darksiders 2. Have you ever wondered what would happen if you took the Zelda formula and gave it a very dark storyline? Well, wait, you'd get Twilight Princess. But let's say that didn't exist. You would get Darksiders 2. I couldn't believe how much I really enjoyed this game. It had great combat and some really impressive areas to explore. While there was a lot of places to explore, the worlds were usually broken down into areas. It was often smaller areas that would make up a bigger world. I have to assume they did this so they wouldn't have to load entire areas. But all the stopping and starting did kind of break the flow a little, but only slightly. The gameplay was really fun. There were many open areas for you to interact with, but when it came to the dungeons, while it was open a lot of the times for you to explore, it really was a linear path looking like a free choice. Most of the time where you had to go was pretty laid out, so it was very easy to figure out where to go, even in huge open areas. And that was due to the map or just them showing you where to go. Number 7. Game & Wario. This title was really good. They did a better job of showing off the capability of the Wii U gamepad than Nintendo Land. I mentioned this in the review, but I think Nintendo would be smart if they packed this game in instead of Nintendo Land. It was fun, had many different games to play, and it controlled well. My favorite one was the one where you have to be a photographer, and you have to use the gamepad as a camera. You zoomed in and moved the gamepad around the room to find the subjects that you want to take pictures of. There was also another good game where you had to play as a young boy, trying to play the previous WarioWare games on his little handheld. You know, the ones that I mentioned before that would play for a few seconds at a time, then it would move on to the next one. The young boy has to pretend to be asleep when his mom would come around, and she would often check up on him. So you're going to need to make sure that you looks like you're sleeping, or if she caught you, it would be game over. But the fun part is you're actually playing those games on your Wii gamepad while you're having to watch the screen also for the mother. It was a fun mix of gameplay. Number 6. Pikmin 3. While I'm not a huge fan of strategy games like this, I have to admit I had more fun with it than I expected. The Pikmin were fun to control and make them do whatever I told them to do. The boss fights were very creative, and overall the game was really well made. I think the first thing I have to wonder about is playing this game for the very first time, because I never played any of the other Pikmin games. The very first thing the guy does, they find these creatures that were actually quite friendly, and the first thing he decides to do with them is chuck them at a wall.
Not really. He's actually trying to help the Pikmin, first off, get their onion, and then the Pikmin are like, whoa, this dude's great. And he starts mass producing these Pikmin, and then it's like, whoa, we have a civilization now. We shall help you.
By being a projectile?
Pretty much.
That's the thing I found most messed up about the plot.
That's exactly how he helped them, so it looks like they don't really care.
I know, but when you're fighting bosses and stuff, you're just chucking them at a hard surface. It's like, okay, dude, why don't you do a little bit of the heavy lifting here? Number 5. Batman Arkham City. I never played any of these Batman games before, so when I picked this one up, I didn't know what to expect. Imagine my surprise when I found a game with lots of depth, an open world, compelling storyline, and fun combat. It really did feel like I was Batman in this game, and that's always cool. Now, the game starts up with Bruce Wayne being captured and thrown into a dilapidated city that they call Arkham City. Apparently, the authorities have walled off a part of Gotham that is taken over by the criminals and just let them have their fun with it. They keep them walled up in that hellish area. I love the way the story is played out. It didn't just feel like we were watching a story, it felt like we were really controlling the story. Now anyways, you escape and get a spare bat suit, and you take on the criminals in the city. The storyline will take you all over, where you're going to be battling the Penguin, helping your friend Catwoman, stopping the Joker, and many other classic Batman villains. I love the overall scope of the entire story. Number 4. Zelda Wind Waker. This one was a tough one to place. I knew it would either be number 4 or number 2. In one hand, it's a great Wii U game. In the other, it's a port of a GameCube game. I kind of feel like they were a little bit lazy on this one. They could have added an extra dungeon to fix that last ending quest, but instead they made a few tweaks and improved the graphics and then just released the game. It's great that they released it to the Wii U. I just wish they could have made it stand apart more from the GameCube version. But even with that said, the game is still fantastic. I think the Wii U gamepad was perfect for this game because it was easy to switch out weapons, move your weapons around. What'd you think?
Using the Wii U gamepad, you could just simply tap the item on the bottom screen, then drag it to the button you wish. And you don't even need to look at the gamepad, as the item and the buttons will appear on the main screen.
Right, and you can also pull up the map, you can pull up tingle bottles. The gamepad screen was used perfectly. Number 3. Rayman Legends. This one was an intense platformer. Unlike typical platformers, this one you're going to need to keep your reflexes sharp. The characters were fun to move around in the game worlds. The variety of the worlds that you had to go in was quite amazing. Plus the title looks fantastic and really does a good job of using the Wii gamepad to make the gameplay much more fun. Most of the time the gameplay is a normal run and jump platformer. However, in each of the worlds there are a couple Murphy stages. These stages change the gameplay drastically. Now you'll no longer be in control of your character, but in control of another character named Murphy. He can control the environment around you. You have to move the objects around you with the gamepad to get the character past the obstacles. When you're in this gameplay, like I said, you only control Murphy, and your other character moves automatically, which I kinda liked. It would have been annoying to constantly change back and forth. If you're playing with 2 players, one player controls the main character and the other one controls Murphy. This makes it very helpful if you're trying to find all the secrets of the level. Number 2. Lego City Undercover. I did a couple other Lego games this year, but this one easily stands out as the best of them all. It's basically Grand Theft Auto with Legos. There is a large open world for you to explore, and it had a great and funny storyline for you to play out. Plus there was tons for you to do when you weren't playing the story mode. The only problem with this game was the loading times, and even throwing that in, it's still fantastic. I love the sense of freedom to explore the somewhat big, Lego-ized world that they have created. There are plenty of places that even if you looked there, you'd have to have the right ability to actually explore the certain area. So there's plenty of replayability to come back and find something new. Now the game controls alright. Just like all Lego games, the jumping controls were very loose. You will occasionally overjump a landing, but since you can't die and you just respawn back where you were, it's not really that big of a deal. Number 1. Super Mario 3D World. I'm sure this one is no surprise to anyone. I had to choose from this one or New Super Mario Bros. U. And it really was no contest. That's not really a diss on the other game, because I think Super Mario 3D World is just an improvement on the other game. They took all the best parts of New Super Mario Bros. U and the best parts of the Mario Galaxy series and made a spectacular 2D, 3D platformer. So boys, Super Mario 3D World. Would you buy, rent, or skip? Little reviewer.
No-brainer skip. This is a AAA title, and it's one of the best on the Wii U.
He said skip, did he
I
not?
said- no,
did he
I
not
said-
skip?
I
Rewind the tape. Everyone's looking at him like dumbfounded, like, what?
I said no-brainer buy.
Did he say skip or did he say buy?
I think he said skip.
I said
But
bye.
I think he was just ready for the Barbie review.
He's not on my Barbie review. That's all mine.
This is a AAA title, and it's amazing and wonderful, and if you don't have a Wii U, get it and buy this game.
Well, that's my list of the top 10 best games that I reviewed this year. I want to take this time to say thank you for watching my videos. And if you have subscribed, I want to thank you for doing that as well. As I'm going into my 6th year of doing this, I'm humbled by all the support I've gotten over the years. I can't thank you enough for watching my videos. And I will see you next year as I branch out into PlayStation 4 reviews. But don't worry, the Wii U reviews will keep coming as well. I'm just broadening my review scope. So thanks again for watching, and I hope you have a happy new year.